Hey, what's up, parents and teachers? This is me, Seth with SethPerler.com, and I'm glad you're here. Happy 2018. It's the beginning of a new school year, and I have an email here that I'm going to go over talking about this parent who says she is at her wit's end. Now, this is an older email, but this is a great way to start off the year, because what you want to be able to do, parents, is you want to be able to advocate for your child and not feel like you're crazy or there's something wrong with you or you're misperceiving something. You want to be grounded in what you think. So I'm going to go over this email, and this will help you to determine perhaps what to say. This email, and I'm going to stop periodically along this email and break down some of the thoughts on here. First, I'm going to read it through. I have a second grade son who may be 2E based on uneven scores in a WISC 5. I'm having issues with his charter school, which is battling me over whether my kiddo is challenged or lazy. It's a, quote, no unnecessary homework school, yet they're keeping him after school once a week for up to 70 minutes while he struggles in frustration doing 15 minutes worth of homework. Mostly handwriting drills and single word sort activity, which he has refused to do for months on end now because he says it's dumb and not teaching him anything. I say it's a power struggle over authority and non-significant work, and they say he has to learn to do what everyone else has to do and learn some, quote, grit, and that I'm interfering. I'm at my wit's end. I've tried to advocate for my kiddo, and now I'm basically banned from the class. So, awesome email. Let me go through some of this. So, I am an executive function and 2E coach. I'm an education coach. I specifically work with students who don't fit in the box. So if you imagine a bell curve, I work with students who are outliers. By nature, all the students that I work with are outliers. People don't hire me if their child is in the middle part of the bell curve. Now, you have your 2E kid. She said, I have a second grade son who may be 2E based on uneven scores in a WISC 5. So the uneven scores, so you have this discrepancy. You have really high highs and really low lows. And whether or not the label of 2E is appropriate, the discrepancies nonetheless create a lot of misunderstandings in the minds of adults who do not understand these kids. So she says, I'm having issues with this charter school. So I want to mention that just because a student is in a charter school doesn't mean that that charter school knows what's going on. So charter schools, just like any school, are filled with human beings. The adults who work there are human, and they often do not have the expertise to do what needs to be done. They may not have the time to do what needs to be done, the resources, the support. So just because it's a charter school doesn't mean that they're magically perfect and great at dealing with kids, even though people who send their kids to charter schools are hoping that their child will be going to a place that is more aligned with what their child needs. Now, also, just because it's a charter school doesn't mean it's a bad school. I love charter schools, and sometimes they get a bad name because there have been charter schools who have been caught in corruption and things like that. Well, so have plenty of non-charter schools, and so it doesn't matter. People get too stuck on those issues. So I just want to mention that real quick. It doesn't matter what kind of a school it is. They are staffed by human beings, and human beings are flawed. And hopefully you have a staff of people who are mentally healthy individuals who really have the kids' best interest in mind and who really know how to sift through the red tape to do what the kids need above all. And that doesn't always happen, regardless of the type of school. Anyhow, back to the topic. I'm having issues with this charter school, which is battling me over whether my kiddo is challenged or lazy. If you've been following me for any period of time, you know that I am not a fan of the word lazy in general. A lot of times, adults who don't understand kids are going to, and who do not understand executive function, are going to say the student is lazy. They're not trying hard enough. They must not care about school enough. They're just not disciplined enough. They're just unmotivated. And we have these labels. They're not going to say, oh, maybe we are not engaging the students enough. Maybe we are not understanding your child well enough. Maybe we are not resourcing our teachers well enough to be able to be of service to your student in the way they need. Maybe we are not giving our teachers enough time to have a life and enough support to do their job. And they're not going to say that. They're going to blame it on the kid. The kid's just lazy. It's not us. It must be the kid. He's just lazy. I think that's not cool. This is a no unnecessary homework school. Well, a lot of times schools say one thing, or their website says one thing, or they look great on paper. But I cannot tell you how many students I work with that when the student finally gets in school that they think is going to be the magic school, that the schools often, or even treatment centers or things like that, they often have challenges behind the scenes that come out later. So it's supposed to be a no unnecessary homework school, yet they're keeping them after school once a week for up to 70 minutes. So the issue is this keeping them after school necessary or not? Their perspective is that it is, the parent's perspective and the child's perspective is that it's not. For up to 70 minutes while he struggles in frustration doing 15 minutes worth of homework. Mostly handwriting drills and single word sort activity that he has refused to do for months now because he says it's dumb and not teaching him anything. I don't know that the activities are dumb or not teaching him anything, or that they're valueless. However, the emotional experience this child is having to stay after school and with whoever he's working with is the child is having an emotional experience. They're not in the prefrontal cortex. They're in their amygdala. They're in fight, flight, or freeze. The child is not having fun. They're not engaged. They're not finding value in this. And you, listener, right now, you as an adult, how would you like it to be sitting in a room where somebody is dictating to you what you need to be doing and they're not being kind about it, or you feel some sort of condescension or pressure from them? How would you feel if they're making you do something that you're not finding value in? Now, if that person treated you with kindness and love and compassion and joy and happiness and smiles and helped you and scaffolded you and helped you feel successful, it'd be a totally different story. But if they didn't, how would you feel about that? So they're wanting him to conform, from what I can see. And I don't know these people. I don't know the school. I don't know the story, but I have heard the story so many times. The parent says, I say it's a power struggle of authority and non-significant work. And they say he has to learn to do what everyone else has to do and learn some grit. Oh, that stuff makes me sick. Why does he have to learn what everyone else has to do? I have heard this argument before that everybody has to do the same thing. We can't do it differently for your child than we'd have to do it differently from everybody. There's a saying that best practice for special ed is best practice for everyone. And then there's another saying that came later. Best practice in gifted ed is best practice for everyone. What does that mean? Well, the best practice in these cases is referring to differentiation, seeing students as individuals, personalizing instruction, individualizing instruction, tailoring instruction. But who wants to tailor instruction? That's not easy. It takes skill. It takes artistry on a teacher's behalf. It takes resources. It takes time. It takes money in a school district, in a school. It takes not having gigantic classes. It takes a lot to meet the needs of kids if you're going to differentiate for kids and see them as individuals. We want to standardize them. We want them to fit in the box. We want everybody to do the same thing. Do you want to do the same thing as all your friends? You, adult listening right now? No, you have friends who have very different lives from you. You don't all have to do things the same. You don't all have to go to the same grocery store, eat the same food, do the same fitness plan, blah, blah, blah. We all are individuals. Yeah, we want to stand. Sorry, I'm ranting a little bit here. So he has to learn some grit. Now, I will say that learning grit, learning resilience, learning persistence, learning to execute when you don't feel like executing is an incredibly important thing that these kids need to do. They do need to learn grit. But my question is this teaching the child grit? That's a binary question. Yes or no? Is it teaching them grit? In this case, it does not seem evident that there is grit being taught. It seems like they're really teaching him to not like school, to resist challenging himself with these activities. That is what this child seems to be learning. Okay, so, and that I'm interfering. Well, it does sound like you're interfering, and I don't know you and I don't know the situation, but from what I can tell, I would encourage you to interfere. I would encourage you to be advocating. You know your child. There's a time when parents do get overly concerned. We are human. And when emotions get involved and we lose sight of the big picture of what are we advocating for and stuff, this does not sound like one of those situations. This does not sound like you're interfering. It sounds like your gut is saying something's off here. And parents, and teachers, if something feels off, you really need to tune in and listen to that and say, is this me or is this a situation? But don't just say, oh, it must be me, and take it all on yourself. Really think, is it you? If it's not you, you have to advocate. Your child, whether you're a teacher or a parent, so teachers, you too, if these children are not getting what they need, oh my gosh, be the squeaky wheel as much as you can. So I've tried to advocate for my kiddo, and now I'm basically banned from the class. Thanks. I am really sorry you're experiencing this, and I know you're at your wits' end. And all I can say is advocate, advocate, advocate. And when it's falling on deaf ears and you're just not getting anywhere, just keep trying to connect with people who are going to help you. Sometimes you need to take it. It becomes a legal issue. I hate to see it go to that point for the school or for the family. Because it just doesn't seem that complicated for somebody to be compassionate with this child, to really break it down, to take time to help the child feel successful, and to work with the parent in such a way that you feel heard and seen and understood and taken seriously. It just doesn't, it takes so much less energy for a school to take the time to help you feel that way and try to honor your needs. And they're not going to be able to honor your needs. They're not resourced enough. They don't have enough money or resources or time or whatever. But to help you feel heard and seen and understood and appreciated isn't that hard. So I don't know if this was helpful or not, but all I can say is it's the beginning of a new school year. You're going to have a lot of you families with kids who are on the outside of the bell curve, your outliers. And your 2E kids, your super outliers. You are going to have these situations where your child is not understood, where they say, well, I know your child can do it. I can see that they're capable of it. So why aren't they doing it? They must be lazy. They must be unmotivated. They must not care. And you'll have these experiences, unfortunately. But just advocate, advocate, advocate. Listen to your gut. Your gut probably is not wrong. And try to be very, in your advocacy letters, try to be very bulleted and short. I have some blogs about how to advocate in letters and stuff like that. Anyhow, I do hope this was helpful. It's the beginning of the school year. You want to start off your year strong and communicating with the teachers and the staff and saying, here are my kids' needs. And don't expect them to remember it. Teachers are very busy. They have 30 kids. They have 90 kids, middle and high school teachers. They might have over 100 kids a day or a week. They don't even know your kid's name until November if they have that many kids sometimes, and the kids are running in and out of class and they have 8 periods a day. This is a second grade family, but just know it's the beginning of the year, and the teachers aren't just going to remember everything you tell them. So you want to resend the emails that talk about your kids' needs multiple times at the beginning of a school year and say, hey, just want to remind you, I know you're busy. Just take a look at this and delete it when you can, but here are 3 things you should know about my kid. Just want to keep this in your mind for the first few weeks of school. I appreciate what you do, and just frame it really positively, but keep telling them, because they just can't, it doesn't always click just because they may have several IEPs in a class. They're reading through all this paperwork, all these 504s. The teachers are doing so much to get to know these kids, and it's just a lot of details for them to remember. And it takes time for them to get to know your child on a personal basis and also to know the backstory. So anyhow, I do hope you have a great school year, and that your challenges are minimal, and that your joy and the growth that you see is enormous. And if you haven't signed up for my blog, check me out at sethperler.com. Sign up. I have a student success toolkit I send families, and there's tons of great resources for helping these kids. Have a great year.